Matter. Matter can be simply defined as anything that has mass and occupies space. It includes the materials or substances that can be seen around us, even the ones we cannot see, such as air, gas, etc. Examples of matter include stone, table, bag, socks, yam, kerosene, gas, air. Matter is made up of small tiny particles known as either atoms, molecules and ions. They are too tiny to be easily seen by the naked ordinary eyes and are seen usually by the use of microscope. Components of matter. The particles of matter can either be made up of atoms, molecules, ions. Atoms. Atoms refer to the smallest particles of a substance that can take part in a chemical reaction. Examples of atoms include neon, hydrogen, calcium. Molecules. A molecule is a group of atoms that are chemically combined, and can exist on their own. Examples of molecules are sugar, water, carbon dioxide, oxygen. Classification of molecules. Molecules are classified based on the number of atoms it contains. A monoatomic molecule is a mole with only one atom. A diatomic molecule is a molecule with just 2 atoms. A triatomic molecule contains 3 atoms. Ions. Ions are atoms or a combined group of atoms carrying a positive or negative charge. Examples of ions are hydrogen ion, chlorine, sulfate. States of matter. There are 3 main states of matter. They are solid state, liquid state, gaseous state. Properties of solid. Solids have fixed shapes and volumes. Solids do not flow. Solids stay the same when left alone under normal conditions. The particles in a solid do not move about because they are very close together. They only vibrate about their position. The particles in solid are kept together by special forces of attraction called bonds. Solids are very difficult to compress because the particles are very close to each other. The particles in solid can vibrate, but still remain in fixed positions. Properties of liquid. The particles of a liquid are also closely packed together, but not as close to each other as solid. Liquids are also held together by bonds, but the force is not as strong as those of solid. Liquid flows. The particles in liquids are not as close to each other as those of solids. Thus, the particles are able to move about freely. Liquids usually take the shape of their container. Liquids do not have fixed shapes and fixed volumes. Demonstrating the properties of liquid. You can try out the shape of liquid by pouring water into a bowl, a measuring cylinder and a bottle. Look at the shape of the water in each of the containers. you will notice that the water takes the shape of the respective containers. Properties of gases. The particles in gases are very dispersed and move about more freely than liquids. The particles of a liquid are also closely packed together, but not as close to each other as solid. They are also held together by bonds. Gases do not have fixed shapes and fixed volumes. Gases also take the shape of their container. Change from one state of matter to another. This explains how matter changes of a given state to another. Melting. This happens when a solid changes to liquid. A good example is when ice block dissolves into water, when heat is introduced. Due to the introduction of heat, the particles in ice block starts dispersing and moving away from each other. Through this the ice is able to melt and become water or liquid. It can then easily flow since the particles are more dispersed. The temperature at which a solid changes to liquid is known as the melting point. Evaporation. This is a process through which a liquid transforms into gas. A good example of evaporation is the rate at which stagnant pools of water disappears over a period of sunny weather. This is because it can be changed to gases and vanished into thin air. Another way to test for evaporation is by boiling water. You will realize that after a while, because of the heat, the water changes to vapor and disappears into thin air. If the water for a prolonged period of time, the entire water might finish from the pot. Because of the heat, the particles in water disperses even further and move about even faster, thus converting to gas. Note that the point at which a liquid changes to gas is known as the evaporation point. Freezing. This is a process a liquid changes to solid. It is also known as solidification. An example of freezing is when lava from a volcanic eruption solidifies to become rock. Another example is when water forms ice block as a result of being kept in the fridge for a while. When water is left in a freezer overnight, the water changes to ice. Freezing occurs when the liquid particles are pulled closer and closer to each other to the extent that it forms solid. The temperature at which a liquid freezes is called its freezing point. Sublimation. This is a process where a solid changes directly into the gaseous state without first changing into the liquid state. A good example is when a camphor is left in a room for a long period of time, it gradually reduces in size till it eventually disappears. The camphor changes into gas and blends into the air. Another example is a solid air freshener. Condensation. This is a process where a gas changes to liquid due to loss of heat. Deposition. This is where gaseous substances change to form solid. Here the particles are pulled together till it forms solid. Plant and animal cells. A cell can be defined as the smallest unit of life. They are the basic building blocks that make up all living things. The cells are enclosed by a structure known as a cell membrane, which serves as the wall around the cell. Other common parts of the cell include the nucleus, the cytoplasm, ribosome, mitochondria, etc. A cell is so tiny that it cannot be seen by the unaided eye, but with a microscope. Differences between plant and animal cells. Plant cells have chloroplast. Animal cells do not have chloroplast. Plant cells have fixed shape. Animal cells have irregular shape. Plant cells possess cell wall. Animal cells do not have cell walls. Plant cells have one large vacuole which is about 90% of its size. Animal cells contain one or more small vacuoles. Centrioles are not present in all plant cells. Centrioles are present in all animal cells. Similarities between plant and animal cells. They both have cytoplasm. They both have ribosomes. They both have mitochondria. They both have plastids. They both have cell membrane. They both have flagella. They both have nucleus. They both have cilia.